Hello and welcome to My Mom's Basement, presented by Barstool Sports and 3Chi. It is Robbie Fox and Clem back here again for another Loki episode 2 recap. Well, another Loki episode recap. This is episode 2. We are remote now. We got new fancy graphics. Check it out. That's my name down there. That's me. That's me. That's Clem over there.
I'm eating my name for the people on YouTube.
How are you, Clem? How you doing?
Doing great, Bob. We're back in the MCU, and we got some momentum going. I'm very excited about kind of the way everything's been panning out so far. So 2 episodes in, great interview with Michael Waldron, obviously, which was a blast. If you haven't listened to it, check it out on YouTube, podcast, wherever it may be. But I thought that was just, like you said, just a bunch of fanboying out, having some fun. Like, we could have talked to him for like another hour minimum just about MCU stuff, let alone all the other stuff he's into.
What a cool guy, right? Just like such a chill, laid-back dude who holds all of the secrets of the MCU and Star Wars in his mind.
Oh God, I didn't even get into that. I'd be like, how much do you know right now? And he wouldn't have told us, but I would just like have stared him down, and be like, what's coming up? Tell me what's coming up, because we've been sitting around waiting for this shit forever.
And you know what was nice to see is everyone has their different strategies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the actors or the people involved, of avoiding spoilers or avoiding saying things. Michael Waldron's was just, he would say everything. He would throw everything at the wall to muddy the waters. He was like, we got Luke Skywalker coming into the show. I'm bringing the X-Men in my Star Wars movie. Tom Cruise is going to play Mephisto. Imagine those things come true. Imagine Tom Cruise really played Mephisto and Doctor Strange too. He's just fucking with us. We wouldn't know.
We would just be like, we would have to like do the tweet and be like, told you guys, and like, subscribe to the podcast. That's how you have to do. It's a dirty game, but do whatever it takes to get those subs.
A TVA bastard. All right, episode 2 I thought was phenomenal. This was one that a lot of people saw early. So like Jeff D'Lo, Ken Jack, they saw it early. They had the screeners, and they prepared us for an awesome cliffhanger at the end of this one. They were like, oh my God, if you thought at the end of episode 1 you would be eager for 2, just wait to see how eager you will be for 3 after 2. Man, those numbers. Now I'm messing myself up. I'm like miss minutes over here. But they were right. At the end of this one, spoilers. If you're watching this, again, spoilers. By the point that they said someone just bombed the sacred timeline, it was one of those goosebumps moments where it was just like, shit is going down. You see the branches going off. I did think this episode was an improvement over the last episode, which I think says a lot considering how much I loved the last episode, how much we gushed over it on the podcast. So 2 episodes in, overall thoughts, I would say it just keeps getting better.
Yeah, I did not think we'd be hitting like basically the nuke of the sacred timeline this quickly, but 6 episodes, so there's only so much time, right? We're a third of the way through this, which is kind of like, fuck, after the next episode, halfway through the season, it's like, damn, I kind of want to savor it, but at the same point, it's Loki, so you feel like shit's just gonna, like, getting to the craziness is like just, now Loki's in control or he's on the move. So there's a bunch of shit up in the air. And I think that's the way any Loki series should be, where it's just like, you don't know what's going to happen next and just chaos and shit coming, up, down, left, right.
I was thinking that about being a third of the way through the series. I thought that last night, actually, and I was like, fuck, we only get to do what we've already done 2 more times. And that feels like, we just started this journey. But you know what? Then it leads into the movies, then it leads into the what if, then it leads into Hawkeye. They're going to be overloading us with so much content, punching us in 1/16th speed with their movies and TV shows that we're not even going to have time to like reminisce and be homesick about Loki.
And I got to do a little bit of housekeeping here. We got it in the comments. We got it in the tweets, all this kind of stuff. We know Loki's last name, or his dad's name is Laufey, and then
Laufey's son, and then Odin and Odin's son. Listen,
Thor.
We're idiots. We're 2 idiots. What do you expect?
It's still a bad name. But I do know Thor Odinson, and I honestly forgot that was Loki's dad's name. But I've seen all the Thor movies, so I know how it all goes. I've seen the death and all that kind of stuff.
What was the worst for me was I've been on record. I don't love the first 2 Thor movies. I actually feel like I like the second one better than the first, which I know is super controversial. That's one of those Marvel Universe hot takes that'll get you burnt at the stake like Agatha Harkness. But the worst for me was I was editing last week's episode and I put on Thor 1 for the first time in probably a decade. And I watched that scene with Laufey and it all clicked. And I was just like, we are going to get lit up in the comments about this, and oh my god, I was right. It was the most. I felt like I was, I was Loki sitting in the TVA watching my future. Literally, I was like, oh fuck, nope, Thanos is gonna crush me with those comments.
Hey, so future Clem and Robbie, if there's a way to time travel, if you guys go to the TVA and we fuck anything up on this podcast right now, because we're going to, because we're idiots, use the time travel thing, use the little things that fill up and make everything disappear and edit us basically, because we can't edit ourselves after this podcast goes out. So just do it for us, because we like when everyone's like, you guys are great, we love you guys, we love being in the basement. We don't like you fucking morons. Don't you know the most basic part
They were
of
like it. They
Norse
were like it.
mythology?
Literally says his son. His son is in his last name. It says he's his son. How do you not put that together? We're sorry. We're idiots.
It's a bad name, though. It's a bad name, regardless.
And listen, I don't want to blame everything on the 3Chi, but speaking of the 3Chi, we can do the ad read now. 3Chi is our presenting sponsor. They are the industry leader in Delta 8 THC products. All of these products are formulated by a Bruce Banner-esque biochemist. I actually look at the reset charges in Loki now, and I'm like, ooh, that looks like you just like unleash a bunch of 3Chi smoke, and then maybe like if you could fucking shotgun that smoke somehow. I don't even know if that's how that works, but 3Chi, you have all the products in the world on your website at this point. Can you make a little reset charge vape? That would be like, for the nerds, that would be the greatest thing in the world.
Change the game.
Change the game. And that's what 3Chi did to the Delta 8 industry. They actually invented the game. And it's available online at 3chi.com. Like we said, they've got so many products in their store now. They've got vapes, they've got tinctures, they've got oils that you can make your own edibles with. They've got edibles that you could just purchase, cereal treats, cookies, brownies, more. Use the promo code MMB at checkout. You'll receive 5% off your complete order. Now, I actually just re-upped on my 3Chi vapes. People ask me all the time, what is the vape you would recommend? I always go with the Incredible Hulk and the Pineapple Express. Is that because I love the strains more than others, or is that because I love the names more than others? I don't know. I truly don't. Do they work? Absolutely. So be careful with it. You got to be 21 or older. It will give you a buzz. Use it responsibly. But if you do want to use some 3Chi responsibly, I would recommend the Incredible Hulk or Pineapple Express vape strains. They're fantastic. All right, Clem, you ready to get into this week's episode of Loki?
Yeah, let's rock and roll, baby.
All right, let's get right into it. So began with a great recap of last week. And I just want to give kudos to whoever has to edit these things. It's kind of an unsung hero. But man, they recapped the entire episode in 30 seconds. And I was like, that's pretty impressive.
They fucking nailed it, man. We're in the Renaissance Fair, and it just basically...
King Richard's Fair in 1985, right?
Oshkosh, Wisconsin, too. One of my favorite names in the entire world. Oshkosh. Shout out, I please, God, if you're from Oshkosh and you're listening or watching, please tweet at us. I need to just know someone from Oshkosh. I need to have a friend in Oshkosh. Right?
Imagine if we had, listen, if you're out there and you have a basement shirt, can you go to like the Welcome to Oshkosh sign in your basement shirt, take a picture for us? That would be amazing. Like he said, though, we're at King Richard's Fair-esque, a Renaissance Fair thing in 1985. And that is the year Back to the Future came out. Maybe a little subtle nod to time travel there, Back to the Future.
That would be good. Ooh, I didn't even think about that, Bob. That's a good one. And again, we said this, I think, with the Sulk during the Karate Kid. Every time I realize that 2015, which is now 6 years ago, is the future of Back to the Future 2, become very, very, very sad inside. So, but this made me happy. That has to be it, right? That feels like a legit Easter egg.
I mean, after talking to Waldron last week and hearing about Toy Story and Jurassic Park and all these little subtle homages, I bet it probably could be, a Back to the Future one. The TVA agents arrive. They come through those little doors, which is a great effect. I love when they come through those like blurry ass doors, and they realize pretty quickly it's a trap. They go into it. It's a trap, They go into this tent. Something comes over the loudspeaker, and it's very ominous, almost like fucking Saw. Like, you're about to play a game, and you're about to lose a fantastic battle, whatever. And then Bonnie Tyler's Holding Out for a Hero comes on. Now, this is crazy that this was the song that came on this week, because just last week we got our first trailer for Kevin Smith's Masters of the Universe, which looks fantastic. The animated series that's going to be on Netflix next month. And they used this song. And then the day after that dropped, we got our first trailer for the Guardians of the Galaxy video game. And they used this song. So Bonnie Tyler, shout out to her, raking in the royalties this week. Like, she must have thought, man, this might be like a conflict of interest, but I'm not going to tell any of them. I'm just going to take all the money.
Just three different universes, or I guess this is two cinematic universes, and then the other one with He-Man, the same one here with Marvel. Just fucking, it's such a good goddamn song, though. I love this song. It might be like, if I just need a good song, it might be in my top 10. What's the first thing you think of when you hear it?
The first thing, I mean, at this point, the first thing I thought of was fucking He-Man, but I
Oh,
don't
okay.
have like a direct correlation, I don't think.
Well, quite another cinematic universe. It's Shrek 2, I think, when he's
Oh,
going to, storm the castle and Donkey's a horse and you have the giant
yes.
gingerbread man and he just says, be good. I absolutely love it. And then a very personal side of this is Mario Baseball. My wife and I used to play it on, I don't know if that was the Wii or the GameCube. And we used to have batting music for all the guys. And the Goomba was my number 2 hitter. And this was always his song, was I Need a Hero. We play entrance, or at least I would, because this is when I had a life, Bob. You're looking at a little glimpse of Clem before he had no kids and no responsibilities and just was a little more carefree in life. And as I talk about Marvel for my job, so I guess I can't complain too much. And this fucking song, and like, it just got you hyped for the episode. It just got me so excited for what was about to go on.
And it worked for all three, the way they wove it into this, how it was, this Loki variant transferring the energy from one TVA agent to the other. We're seeing like a new power being used, and it was a cool montage, cool way to kick off the episode. We get the title card right after that, but like you said, it's just a fucking great song.
I'm not a Renaissance Fair guy. My wife, actually, speaking of her again, she's getting a lot of love this episode. She used to work at a Renaissance Fair. She used to work at the old chocolate covered cheesecake stick, and people go, "What do you guys sell here?" And she's like, the fucking signs right there, dude. It's cheesecake covered in chocolate, which, by the way, our guy Eddie says cheesecake is better than ice cream. One of the worst takes in Barstool history.
That was tough.
Rough, right?
I wish we could fucking TVA and reset charge that one.
Yeah, exactly. I'm guessing you're not a Renaissance Fair guy, because I know you weren't a Thrones guy.
I've never been to a Renaissance Fair. That would be like a fun video if you and I went to a Renaissance Fair together.
Yeah, I remember Roan was thinking about doing some sort of Renaissance Fair thing back in the day.
Imagine we did like the role models, like LARPing.
Oh, if we go LARP?
Yeah.
Bob, I think this might work. We already have a medieval times trip planned with Podfathers. You're coming as part of the Clem family. They open the gates to us. And that's the thing. I think Renaissance Fair is like, they just seems like a place you're just going to be hot. You're going to be wearing your chainmail or your like fucking wizard garb. It just seems like so lame. But medieval times in the middle of a fucking strip mall, I love medieval times. I think medieval times are the coolest place in the world. I hope we get to a medieval time some point in Loki, even though that makes no goddamn sense.
I've also never been to that. That's why I have to join you on that medieval times trip. But it seems like 3Chi would go great with either, like a Renaissance Fair or medieval times. Get yourself some 3Chi gummies, take a couple beforehand, and oh my God, you're going to be transported into that land.
I hate to say this too, but I have to say it. These TVA, whatever, what are they, like TVA soldiers? We'll call
agents.
them
Agents. I guess Mobius is like an agent. The other ones are kind of soldiers. Yeah.
They fucking stink. They are the worst. And I get you probably don't deal with variants, and let alone variants as powerful as Loki all that often. But come on, man. It's like, this isn't the first time you're dealing with a variant. I'm sure they've lost a bunch of them already. Like, how many variants has this Loki already fucking like scratched off her list? It's fucking just terrible, man. And the fact that they took a hostage too, I'm like, they should have to do like a cyanide pill so you can't take a hostage, because then all the shit that could, lead from it. So just an awful job by these TVA agents. I hate them.
they were dropping like stormtroopers, and they did say that they took a hostage for the first time ever. We go back to the TVA. We get some Miss Minutes, which I was happy about right away. We said we wanted more Miss Minutes last episode. We got her right away.
She's real.
She's she's kind of a physical, like she bounces around. Loki tries to like hit her with the newspaper magazine, which, come on, Loki. I get you're the god of mischief.
Okay, we're mischiefing it this episode. Fair.
Mischief. I get you're the god of mischief, but come on, you don't want to hit Miss Minutes. And she's like jumping around and quizzing him on what he knows about time travel, the TVA, Nexus events. He's learning a little bit more. Mobius comes over. He's like, stop that. Give me my fucking jet ski magazine. And he gives Loki a brand new jacket, which, by the way, we've now turned into a t-shirt, a fire t-shirt that you can see on the screen right now.
Boom, bye.
The variant shirt. Kind of awesome. And one that, I don't want to test our luck, but I feel like that can't get C&D'd, right? They don't own the word variant on a brown. It's a brown shirt. It's a Cleveland Browns colored shirt.
That's Jadeveon Clowney's nickname now that he's with the Browns or something like that. Jeff D. Lowe. This is the Jeff D. Lowe thing we're pitching. I mean, I wouldn't put anything past the Mouse. They might, do whatever it takes to copyright the fucking name variant. It's like Super Bowl with the NFL. But just a good work out of the old. You're like at 3 a.m. You're like, I thought of this as I was watching it at 3 a.m.
I emailed it to our t-shirt designer, at 3 a.m., like the merch department at Barstool. So shout out to Allison for getting that up and everything. I appreciate her putting up with 3 a.m. emails from the nerds. I actually think it's like a pretty fire, like minimalist shirt, though. I think if we have a Pup Punk show this summer, I'll wear that on stage, Pup Punk.
There it is.
Cut off. Yeah, I think that'll be fire.
Wear what the pros wear, as they say. That'll be the pitch, and then someone else at a base can do the same thing. Did you notice, this was an Easter egg I saw someone break down, that the screen where Miss Marvel, when it was kind of like testing Loki on timeline shit, it was a Thanos based problem, which, where am I? The purple guy is all over the damn place these days.
He really is. Maybe before Eternals, they're gearing us back up for like his return in the Eternals. Who knows? But it did. It was like a word problem. It's like if Thanos eats 2 apples, he goes back in time and then wants to eat the apples again. Like, will the apples exist on the timeline or something like, kind of cliche like that? But it actually, they tied it back in later in the episode because that was like what Loki learned. I saw a breakdown where they noted that.
And this isn't like Thanos in the year 2025 or whatever. And it's like he just snapped the whole world. This Thanos is making the cut in a word problem in the TVA, which has every fucking timeline and all these different things. So shout out to my guy for getting a little bit of love there. And we're throwing the Nexus word is just being used all over the damn place.
Yeah,
so I'm really digging that, like the Scarlet Witch and that kind of thinking of stuff is going to exist in this show and in all of Marvel. So that's one thing I learned this episode. My brain is going to be getting a workout here because a couple times.
Oh my God, same.
Okay, good. So listen, everyone listening, if you guys at some point this episode were like, this is a little too much for me right now, let us know, because I'm telling you, I was suffering alone. And I didn't know if you're going to be like, oh, really? Like, Clem, I'm happy to hear. If Bob Fox is lost in the fucking mud, I'm stuck in the mud. We're all stuck in the mud together. So that's
it was a little 3 a.m. haze because I said, like, man, I'll see how long it takes for me to, stay up till 3 a.m. for a new episode. It took me 1 week. And then I watched it at 3 a.m. And when they started going into the time travel and the reset charges and the variants, I was just like, what the fuck is going on right now? But in the best way, I love that. And by the way, how about this for a massive announcement, Clem? We said last week, I haven't even told Clem this, so he's hearing this live on the podcast for the first time. We said last week that we were waiting for someone's stamp of approval, someone's important stamp of approval to see how long it took. This week, Glenny Balls came and sat down right next to me, and he's like, Bob, let's talk Loki. What do you think? Right after episode 2, literally yesterday morning, Wednesday. So he watched it in the morning. We got the Glenny Ball stamp of approval. He's in.
The Glenny Balls, he's hitting it with the 5 balls of approval. That's all we need, baby. This show has superseded just nerdom. It's made it to the balls radar. It's made it to it's revolving around the ball. So I love to hear that. Love to hear that.
And Frankie Borelli texted me this morning, and he just said simply, I'll read this word for word. He said, how fucking good is the Loki show? And I said, so good. He said, it's crazy how good it is. Fucking unbelievable. Everyone's in on Loki right now. It feels like the show of the summer. It feels like it's going to be by episode 3, 4, 5. Oh my God. The penultimate, we're going to be theories galore. Now, Loki, like we said, gets a new jacket from Agent Mobius. If you want to get yourself some new threads, go to barebottomclothing.com and use the promo code BASEMENT. Barebottom Clothing does things differently. Founded on the principle that comfortable, made-to-last menswear shouldn't cost you an arm and a leg, their 5-star rated shorts, swim trunks, and tees have gained a cult-like following of thousands of guys who have made Barebottom the MVP of their closets. I love my Barebottom clothing. Like I say, this stuff is like stuff that you could actually travel in because it looks nice, it's comfortable. You could wear it to the office, you could wear it out later that night. It's very versatile. The swim trunks are great for the beach. They're super stretchy, breathable fabric. It's great stuff. They have antimicrobial fabric, moisture wickening tech tees for under $100. You get 2 pairs of their best-selling stretch shorts and moisture awakening tech tea for under 100. That's a great deal.
It's the perfect time travel gear. If you're going through time, you want to be comfy. You want to be comfy, but still look good enough.
Different terrains, different environments, right? You could pretty much wear Barebottom in all of these places. It's designed to transition from couch to the gym to work to Asgard to Alabama to the TVA. And right now, our listeners get free shipping on their first order of these super comfortable threads at barebottomclothing.com with the promo code BASEMENT. So go to Barebottom Clothing, that's bear like the animal, bottomclothing.com, then use the promo code BASEMENT. You'll get free shipping on your first order. That's a great deal.
Can't beat it.
So he gives Loki this new jacket. It says Variant on the back by the t-shirt, like we said, and they get a briefing on this whole mission. Hunter B-15 is the one who gives the briefing. She is like the leader in some way, a lieutenant. She was the one that took Loki in the last episode, so she's familiar to us. Mobius shows off different forms of Lokis. We get to see the projection of like a Loki that won the Tour de France, a Loki that was a Viking, a Loki that was like a massive hulking figure. It was very cool to see. It's one of those great Easter eggy things that reminds me of stuff that we would see in The Mandalorian or something on a hologram. And B-15, this is very important, is talking about the magic that the Loki is using against their agents. And Mobius says, yeah, illusion projection and whatever. And Loki cuts him off. It's like, no, illusion projection and duplication casting, those are two different things. You're describing them like they're the same thing. But illusion projection is if you kind of like, how do I describe this? This is where your head starts to get crazy. Illusion projection is basically when you make someone else you take the form of them, I think. And then duplication casting is when you yourself shapeshift into someone. That's how I understood it. But he described them. He's like, no, two different things. And that's important for later. We'll get into why later on.
I was trying to figure that out as well, and I was like, all right, that part of my brain has already been like destroyed trying to figure out all the different timelines and what exactly we're doing as we hop through these little like metaphysical doors. So I was just completely lost. I'm like, you know what? If something strange happens at the end of the episode, I'm going to say it happened because they did the metaphysical instead of the mirroring or whatever the fuck it was. So I'm there with you. This show is going to be a lot to take in a short time because I feel like if maybe they did another couple episodes, they could kind of like walk our hands through it a little more. But I think even with that being said, listen, we all just had a weird last long year too. Our brains are fucking just tired right now. I'm just tired. So my fucking eyes are tired from staring at screens. My brain is tired from trying to figure out what's going on the screens, all that kind of stuff. So we're just going to leave it at that.
And multiple viewings really does help. I'll say that as someone that has watched it 3 times now. And I've watched it 3 times. It feels like it came out a while ago, even though it was just yesterday as we're recording this. Because I watched it Wednesday at 3 a.m, Wednesday night, and then Thursday. So it feels like I watched it like 3 separate days. I've gotten sleep in between each viewing. So it feels like it's been a while.
I don't know if that's just the way the Loki show is written. And it's also like, this is the first time we're getting these like movie shows into a TV show instead of a movie. So we're still getting used to that whole dynamic of it all. And coming out in the morning, like it's just, that's not usually something I do. I don't usually watch shows in the morning, but as soon as that thing comes out, we got to get it on. We don't want to have any kind of spoilers. Have 2 for 2. Shout out the internet right now. I haven't seen anything come out there, and they, there's a few things they could have spoiled along the way. So I feel like we've evolved as a society over the last few years in terms of like respecting people that may not be able to watch it at like 3 a.m. like Bob over here, that crazy maniac.
So they go back to Oshkosh. They want to investigate because this Loki has taken a hostage, which is unlike this Loki. He's never done this before, this variant. So they break up into teams, and Loki right away says, whoa. Let's be careful here. I think if we leave this tent that we went into, where the ambush, the hostage situation happened, he said, I think that you're going to wind up just like your other agents. And he starts stalling for time, kind of going on a filibuster. Agent Mobius realizes this. He sees through it eventually, and he's disappointed. He's just like, damn, you almost had me for a second. I actually got Ted Lasso vibes, like out of Agent Mobius, a bunch in this episode, even when I think it was Ravonna, and she's like, do you really believe in this guy? He's like, he believes in himself enough for the both of us. I was like, that's something fucking Ted Lasso would say, Owen Wilson.
That is actually a good point. I also got, after he left the office to let Loki know they could do the thing, I got Wedding Crasher Owen Wilson vibes from it. He's like, hey, let's go. We got it. And like, he had that little pep in his step. step. So
Yes,
Ted Lasso's a good
he's
call.
just like Owen Wilson. He gets to be Owen Wilson. I was just texting. I think I said that to Frankie in that conversation we just had. I was like, he's so perfect because they wrote the character seemingly for his voice. It's just it comes out so naturally, and his back and forth with Tom Hiddleston, even during the filibuster stuff, was great. And B-15 is just getting more and more antsy with Loki because he's a bastard in her eyes.
Can you imagine if we had to deal with Loki though? Like, as much as I want to like criticize her, I'd be like, "You're going." Like, I'm just saying it to the TV screen. I'm like, "Listen, dude, I know it's your show, and like we have to kind of like root for you, and we're kind of like need to all get through this together. I know you're gonna fuck us over though, man. It just makes me so sad."
It's like
He's
the
so
conversation
charming.
they have later, where he's like, "You're gonna stab me in the back," which is again a bad Owen Wilson impression. But he's like, "Why would I stab you?" He's like, I've studied your whole career, Loki. I mean, you stab everyone in the back. That's what we
More
saw
than
in the
50
trailer as well."
times.
Agent Mobius has a conversation with Ravonna at this point when they go back, and she has some history with him. Maybe it seems like they've been talking about it must be another agent that you're working with. Like, I don't know if it's a romantic history or if it's just a competitive work history, but they obviously have a back and forth that spans years or however long they've been in there. And they have this conversation about the timekeepers, where Mobius is like, "I've never even met them." And Ravonna says, "They're more involved in this case than I've ever seen them. Trust me." It kind of sounds like during this conversation, they're talking about Santa Claus. Like it
Yeah.
does not sound like the timekeepers exist. So we're either being set up to be surprised when they eventually do exist in the end, or maybe there's something fishy going on here.
What's a fish?
There's a lot of fishiness going on with all this. That much I think is clear. Again, they focused on the middle timekeeper again. And listen, I'm just gonna say right now, it's Kang! It's Kang! It's Kang! That's fucking Kang. Kang is coming. I hate to be the like expecting another character to come into this world. I swore I would never do it after WandaVision, but I mean, I said that about the Knicks, about photoshopping. I just photoshopped Zion in a Knicks jersey. Old habits die hard, and Die Hard is my favorite movie ever. So we're going with it. That's fucking Kang.
I'm all in with you there. I'm not going to hold you back from that one. I'm like, fucking go. That's Kang.
We're Team Kang right now. We're rocking with it. Even Mobius, he says that one looks like, and then it kind of gets like she like starts talking and she cuts him off. Yeah, so there's a lot of shit that goes on. Chekhov's snow globe. Where did that snow globe come from? He says something about the FDR high school pen. Chekhov's FDR high school pen. A lot
and
of
both
Chekhov.
times they mentioned another agent. Who's the other agent? Reed Richards? Is it a space engineer?
Oh God, no!
The aerospace engineer.
Oh God, yes, it's gonna be Reed Richards. That's Kang. Kang gets fucked up with Reed Richards, right? They get intertwined. So, yep, that's exactly what it is.
When Mobius leaves this meeting, he kind of has a back and forth with Loki, where Loki comes off like a son who knows he just disappointed his dad by doing the stalling, filibustering, and he's just like kind of trying to make it up to him. Mobius is still annoyed with him. And then he assigns Loki to look at variant case files. He's like, go to the fucking TVA library, study all of these case files, and don't come back to me until you have some homework for him.
Did you appreciate Loki trying to like? I almost appreciated that Loki was always trying to trick him. Like you could tell he was getting into his Lokiness as they were walking, and I was like, that's just the guy Loki. It's like the guy. I don't know if we ever brought this one up on the pod, but when I was in school, you'd always have the kids that would always beg for change, and they'd always like put on their like
change.
You
like
never
homeless
had that?
people?
Like exactly, it would be like kids who would like wait at the end of the like once you paid for your food, they're like, "Hey man, can I get like a quarter?" Because they wanted to buy like
so. Yeah.
They wanted to buy like a Gatorade or something like that, and they'd always like break into their little spiel. They'd almost like entertain you, like, "Hey man, blah blah blah," and they'd try to make a joke to get you to do it. That's what I feel like. Loki is always just trying to ask for change, and he's always doing his kind of thing. So I kind of love that he's always on. He's just always on.
And if he's doing something for you, it's because he needs something in return. He's he's not doing stuff out of the kindness of his own heart.
Yep. Then I'd be like, "Hey man, you look good. You lost some weight." It's like, all right, you just want my fucking quarters so you can buy a hot pretzel. Here you go. Man. Just get the fuck out of my face, you fucking weird. I always said those were like, I always thought that was like the weirdest thing about school is how you had people who like didn't come from like poverty or anything, but they were begging for change. It was like fucking like a glimpse of the future.
Because their parents were strict and they're like, you don't need a fucking cookie at lunch. I'm not giving you extra money. Loki
to all the poor people, I do apologize. For the ones that were poor, I do feel bad about that. But all the other ones, fuck you, man.
Fuck them. Loki tries to get some files about the creation of the TVA, the creation of time, the end of time. They're all classified. The librarian he goes up to kind of has weird like robot vibes. Did you get the same vibe with that. Like she didn't respond to him till he dinged the bell, and then she like slowly turned and looked up. It was like in a video game when you walk up to a librarian and it's like press X to interact. Like he didn't press X at first, so she didn't look at him.
Yeah, you're just not like lined up perfectly with her, so you're hitting X and it's not registering. That's a good way to put it. And almost like the girls with the collector, where they kind of seem like robots, but they're not robots, and like that was definitely the vibe I was getting. And it kind of goes back to like even with the judge, it feels like the TVA doesn't have all the answers we thought they had. I thought the TVA was all knowing and everything was like on lock and key. Nope, there's a lot of other shit going on here that we're not going to find out for a few episodes.
Someone sent in a theory that we'll get to later, a listener that I liked, that I didn't really think of beforehand, but connects to that. So she gives him just the variant case files once again. He goes back to his desk. He starts looking through them, and he finds one about the destruction of Asgard. And it says that there was 0 variant energy found there. And a light bulb goes off in his head. And he's like, oh, shit. What if, and he runs into Mobius, who's eating a salad for lunch, and he's like, listen, I think variants can do whatever they want in the apocalypse, because the way that other multiverses or other branches of the timeline are created is someone goes off and does something that they're not supposed to, and then people see that, and then it just snowballs, correct? And Mobius says, yeah. Loki says, well, what if we go to somewhere where an apocalypse is about to happen? And then we do something, but then everyone who witnessed it is destroyed. Everyone who witnessed it is killed, and nobody remembers that it happened. Something wouldn't branch off, would it? And he does this in a very funny way with like pouring water and salt and pepper into Mobius's salad. He takes the water from Casey, and Casey just turns around and he's like, oh, you again? And he just has this fearful look on his face of, this fucking guy tried to gut me like a fish. He threatened to gut me like a fish. I don't even know what a fish is, and now he's taking my water for lunch. And he says, if you can take me to an apocalypse, I would love to show you that I'm right about this. And this is when he's like, you would just stab me in the back. He's like, no, I just want to be right. I want to show you that I'm correct. So they go to Pompeii.
I loved how he did the whole lunch thing. I don't know why he felt like he had to ruin Mobius's lunch. I was like, come on, man. I'm not a big salad guy, but that was just wrong, man. But I loved the Hulk thing about bouncing off the rainbow and stuff like that.
Especially being this is the Loki who just got slammed by the Hulk in Avengers, right? He has that animosity against him.
Loki still has to have a headache from that, right? Even though it's later at this point, it happened like that. And this looks bad. You know, we kind of like asked if he was Mephisto. Casey, he didn't even ask for his drink back. He just got his drink taken from him, and he didn't even ask for it back. Loki just squeezes it out. He doesn't like look over and be like, oh my God. He's just like, hey, the new guy, you know, like that's my gift to him.
Hey, Loki's going to be Loki. That's the god of mischief.
Loki gonna Loki. That's a fucking t-shirt right there. That might be a problem actually with TNT.
Yeah, we can't. I mean, listen, using the name twice, not once, but twice on a t-shirt, that's really pushing our luck here.
Let's throw fucking Mickey Mouse on a t-shirt next. Let's see if we can get away with that, right?
So he takes him to Pompeii, 79 AD, and he's like, we got to be very careful, Loki. We can't disrupt anything here, because if you're wrong, something destructive can happen. We can branch off. He says, just make bird noises, okay? Caw, caw. And Loki fucking runs out. He lets a bunch of goats free. He has a funny line where he says, be free, my horned friends. And fucking hysterical. He's got horns. They've got horns. He tells everyone the apocalypse is coming. He's like, that volcano that's about to erupt, you're all about to die. Right on cue, it erupts. And Loki is correct. No variant energy was found on his little seismic reader. And there you go. The variant Loki can be hiding in apocalypses. Such a nice little fold, and one that you got to think like, when does that come? I almost wish that we had interviewed Michael Waldron next week to ask, like, I wish we interview him every week after these episodes to ask him a billion questions. But when does that come along in the writing process for him where he's like, oh, like someone could hide, given all of the rules we know about Marvel's timeline, someone could hide in apocalypses.
All I could think of as soon as we went there, I was like, this is so fucked up. These poor Pompeii people have no idea what's about to happen to them.
Loki was geeking out too. He was like a tourist, like in Disneyland.
I loved all the goat stuff and him just like, I guess it's like, it's kind of like you can just do whatever the fuck you want if you just know everything's just gonna, you know, there's always the thing, like if you could find out when you're gonna die, would you want to know? So then you could just act like an absolute lunatic until the moment that comes and you're basically invincible, hypothetically speaking. All I could think of, though, I'll be honest, Bob, again, old habits die hard. Heard the A word? Apocalypse, X-Men confirmed, Apocalypse confirmed. Apocalypse needs to be done right. There were many things that were wronged by the non-MCU movies, and Apocalypse, who I never truly understood as a kid, Apocalypse is a cool-ass motherfucker, and he needs to be done right. Mr. Sinister needs to be done right. This is becoming an X-Men podcast really quickly, but I just love those villains. So that was my piece from that part.
Sucks that they got a good actor to play him too. Like Oscar Isaac is a great actor, and they just couldn't fucking get that right. There's a few scenes in that movie that are good. There's that scene with Magneto in the woods where he loses his daughter, and that's a very well done scene with Michael Fassbender. Everything else is kind of shit in that. They go back to the TVA. They have this conversation about jet skis. Loki's like, that magazine on your desk, jet skis. Why do you have that? Why do you look through that? He's like, oh, it reminds me what we fight for. Reveals that he's never even been on a jet ski. And this is now a new end game for the series in that we got to see this happen, right? We need that guy from Tiger King when he had that entrance on the jet ski. Yes, we need Mobius by the end of the MCU to be able to fucking... We're going to find out the TVA isn't all what they were cracked out to be, right? They don't make all the rules. Send him to Earth and let him ride a fucking jet ski.
If there isn't a video of Owen Wilson's face on top of the Tiger King guy on the jet ski, and he just goes, wow, wow, then the internet has failed us. The internet's undefeated. It always comes through. So I expect that done, whether it's by us or someone we know who's listening or just some random person.
Tell you what, if you're watching on the YouTube, you just saw it, because I'm not letting this episode go out without putting that in and post.
I just loved his love of jet skis. I remember when I was a kid, and I think it was the first time I went on a jet ski, and that's all I thought about for basically.
I've never been on one. How about that? I'm like Owen Wilson. I'm like Mobius.
It's pretty. Do you wish you were on one? Because they're pretty fucking definitely. Awesome, Bob.
It seems fun. Yeah, I would definitely go on a jet ski.
It's no doubt. It kind of inspires me. It's the reason it's what we fight for. It's the reason we wake up in the morning is to one day get on a jet ski again. So can confirm jet skis awesome.
In the midst of this conversation, I just wanted to point out they had such an amazing meta line where Loki was kind of like, what is all of this? Like 3 lizards in the sky arranged all of the fucking timelines together. And Mobius points out that everything about this sounds ridiculous. He's like, oh, really? Because who's your dad? He's like, Laufey, the fucking frost giant or whatever. He's like, okay, frost giants, you were birthed by frost giants, raised in a realm of gods by witches, and fucking, he names basically all of the ridiculousness that goes on in the MCU. And he's like, doesn't it all sound ridiculous? Which felt like they were just staring right through the TV at all the fans being like, what? What is this TVA? This sounds crazy. It felt like they were literally just talking to those people.
That's the perfect way to approach stuff like this, and I feel like everyone's been pretty good so far about Loki in the first 2 episodes about what is and isn't possible or happening. I'll just say for me, again, my brain is just taking a fucking licking right now, because then I'm starting to think like Sienna the other day asked me, who was the first person born? I'm like, what? I became the hangover math meme, and I'm trying to figure it out just for myself to then explain to her. And I'm like, I don't know. And then how did life start? And then I'm thinking Big Bang, and I'm thinking atoms. And you ever do the thing where you just think about how big the universe is and how the universe is never ending, and then you just go, I mean, I'm talking to a 3-cheese spokesman right here, right? So I'm sure that happens
it's
quite
like
often.
The Vertigo scene from Jaws, where it's like the zoom out, but it like zooms in.
I become one of those gifs where it's like it just is the same picture. You keep zooming in. That just became my brain as they were talking. I'm like, Loki, it's way too much. Maybe I have to watch this at 3 a.m. because maybe that's the time when you can like really your brain is ready to suck that stuff up.
Performance, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So just think jet skis. That's the easy way. Just think happy thoughts. Just think jet skis. That's what I'm going to do from now on.
Loki says he knows something that children don't, and that is that no one bad is truly bad, and no one good is truly good. There's a lot of shades of gray, which I think is going to be foreshadowing for this entire show.
Yep.
And then a light bulb finally goes off for Mobius. He's like, oh, children. I ran into that child back in 1549 or whenever it was last episode, and she had Kablooey, this bubble gum. If we look up when the gum was sold, maybe we could find an apocalypse in that time range that Loki was hiding in. So they look it up, they find Alabama. I think it was 2050, 2051, an area like that. They go get Ravonna. She approves the mission. She's like, fuck it. All right. Try your luck. We go to Alabama. The opening scene, which we discussed right before we started recording just a little bit, is this like bright billboard shows a beautiful beach, and then it gets ripped away by this storm, and it looks like the craziest apocalypse ever. It's raining, it's a tsunami, there's buildings exploding. Such a cool visual, and I said it reminds me of a director that I love, and that director is Steven Spielberg. As soon as that shot happened, I was like, oh, that's such a fucking Spielberg shot. The way he would use transitions for like the Paramount logo into his logo and stuff like that. Like that's sort of what it resembled in my mind.
It was fucking awesome. Just, and you know, back even, let's see, 2050, right? That's the year.
I think, yeah, 2050, 2051, somewhere like that.
Everything's going to be on giant screens, and paper and all that kind of stuff is going to be basically irrelevant. And it just sped up in our real world, I think, over the last year to a whole new level. So, the fact that, you know, like they alluded to a lot of stuff in terms of climate change. The fucking swallow. R.I.P. to the swallow.
R.I.P.
That was fucked up. Bird
as
guys
a bird
here.
guy, yeah.
Krakatoa. There was a lot of shit. Like I feel like there's those Easter eggs. You could probably get really deep. There was a lot of stuff that went on, and I'm sure there's people like, don't you talk climate change is as fake as Loki. Like, all right. I thought that was a nice direction to take it, and again, kind of being like, and by the way, Category 8 hurricane, not a 5. Yeah. Category 8, which I kind of love I don't love the idea because I guess it could happen. But the fact that we've now changed the category scales because the weather has gotten so extreme, and just seeing that fucking billboard just get hammered down was awesome. It was an awesome beginning to it, and it set up for a great kind of like crazy end to the episode.
And speaking of all the screens in the future, that is going to become an issue in the future. And you got to prevent that by getting yourself some Felix Gray blue light glasses. Because 5 years ago, Felix Gray realized our eyes weren't actually meant to look at screens all day. That's not how our eyes were designed to be. They designed glasses to make screen time more comfortable, make the workday more productive. Now, more than ever, Americans are spending more time on computers, phones, tablets, watching TV, obviously, all of that stuff. We're all at home, not going out. Felix Gray lenses filter 15 times more blue light that can make screen time tough to your eyes. Get non-prescription and prescription available, so you can actually get like glasses that have your prescription. If you're like me, if you're like Clem, you need a prescription, you need specific lenses, you can get those with blue light filters as well. That's a no-brainer. Clem, you've got Felix Gray glasses yourself, right?
And confirm, I got the Nash frames. Love them. 2 guys on the job here. We're always on our phone. I got like my eyes are just exhausted. My eyes are like Loki feels after these last 2 episodes, plus the whole Avengers trying to take over the New York / the world thing. Watery, just aches. So again, I had the non-prescription. Now I'm gonna get the prescription because as an old man, my eyes are getting worse. I now have prescription glasses. Never did when I was younger. So big time cosign. I always say screens are going to be like cigarettes were back in the day, where it's like we should have probably been thinking smarter before we just had everyone doing it. We've just been staring at screens nonstop. So
absolutely. Get yourself a pair of glasses made for the 21st century and designed for modern, hard-working eyes. You have nothing to lose except maybe eye strain. Go to felixgrayglasses.com/basement for the best blue light glasses on the market. That's felixgrayglasses.com/basement. Felix Gray, FELIXGRAY glasses.com/basement. Free shipping, free returns, free exchanges. felixgrayglasses.com/basement. All right, let's get back into the episode. They arrive in Alabama at this supermarket. They start walking around. They split into teams, and Mobius is like, let me take Loki. B-15 is like, ain't no fucking way I'm letting you take Loki. She goes off with him. And they spot someone, her and Loki spot someone shopping. They're like, sir, what are you doing in here? He's like, I'm shopping for fucking toilet paper or whatever. And they're like, in the middle of the apocalypse, what did he say?
Fucking plants, flower sale, hurricane sale. He's shopping. I have a note here. He's shopping for azaleas. I wanted to say how awesome azaleas were, and I was hoping Bob was going to be like, yeah, man.
Azaleas are Mama Fox's all-time favorite flower.
There we go. We'll put some fucking respect on her name. And next hurricane we appear, go, you know what? No, go out and buy her full priced azaleas as an apology for not recognizing that they were talking azaleas. You should know it's your mom's favorite fucking plant, man, flower.
I should know that because I actually know that because she recently bought one for the house and it like died immediately. She had to go plant it outside. She's like, I guess they're not made to be inside. The shopper, though, they're like in the middle of the fucking hurricane, turns into B-15. So we know, okay, this is the Loki variant. She's showing the same power from earlier. And now this Loki variant introduces itself, herself, himself to Loki. I don't want to spoil things yet, for the listeners that have already seen it. Just saving the suspense.
That's a pro. That's a pro's move right there.
I'm saving the suspense for everyone. And Loki tells this person that his own variant, enchantment is a clever trick. I think that will come into play later. That's why I'm mentioning it. Fake Loki then becomes a store employee, Randy, the whole time while kind of taunting real Loki and don't call me that. And she's going back and forth. And real Loki proposes a plan, kind of a Darth Vader Empire Strikes Back type plan, where he's like, listen, you join me and we'll fucking overthrow the timekeepers, you and me together. That's what I'm planning on doing. So why don't we do that together? Fake Loki says, I am not interested in controlling the time variance authority, which she didn't say this, but I feel like implies she's interested in just taking it down. She's interested in destroying it. Mm-hmm. And then we cut back to a TVA agent having like this manic breakdown in a back room, going, it's real, it's real, it's real. Oh my God, it's real. And she says, I gave it away. I said how to get to the timekeepers. And now we're like, oh my God, how to get to the timekeepers. So maybe they are real. Maybe there is a way to get to them. Holy fuck. We go back to fake Loki and Loki. This is like the Undertaker and Undertaker back in the day, And fake Loki turns into this big trucker dude so she could start fucking beating Loki up. And Loki says, I would never treat myself like this. Another line that I think is going to be important later on. Fake Loki starts setting up these charges all over the supermarket. Looks like the reset charges. And reveals herself at this point. Lady Loki, or so we think. She has the Loki horns. She has blonde hair. And she tells Loki, this isn't about you. Because Loki keeps saying, what do you want with me? What do you want from me? And she says, this is not about you. All of these bombs drop in the supermarket. They don't necessarily go off. It looks like they all like drop through portals into different timelines, into different worlds, whatever that may be. And panic ensues. Everyone's seismic charges are going off the rails. You see the timeline is branching out. And back at the TVA, we have this line that I referenced earlier where they say, someone just bombed the sacred timeline. And it's delivered with such panic, such, oh my God, what is going on? It was a goosebumps moment. Lady Loki walks through a portal herself at this point. Loki follows before the TVA could get in. It closes, and that is the end of the episode. Credits. And as soon as credits hit, I also thought Michael Waldron's a genius for not having his name be the first one in the credits, because that name is always the one that I'm like, fuck you, I want to watch the rest of this.
I loved during like the fight scene when she kept changing between people, how they all had the Loki mannerisms, the hands out and everything.
Credit to all of those actors for like playing the same person. You know what I mean? Like they made me forget that it's a bunch of different people playing the same person.
That was one of the things I wanted to say was that like each actor did it and they're so different, right? I got to shout out the name Randy. When he was Randy, I was like, I feel like everything's going to be all right. I feel like Randy's one of those names that you feel like just like a good guy. Like if you know a Randy,
like Randy Marsh, you're like,
yeah, right. Randy Savage, all the Randys. I knew a guy, I used to work with a guy named Randy, and he was just like typical, just nice guy. I was like, shit, this seems really bad. Like all the different charges around. And it seemed like this was going to be like the big, explosion or whatever was going to happen. And then when I heard the word code 000, I was like, oh, fuck. Like that, like number 1 or number 999, bad. Code 000 is like, yo, if this happens, this is like the cover of the book. And it's like, we are fucked if code 000 gets said. Bomb the sacred goddamn time.
So do we think was your first thought, like, is that the multiverse of madness? Did she just create it right there?
I didn't even think about that. I did see someone.
I don't know if she created the multiverse in that moment. And they're like, oh, fuck.
And where was Loki supposed to be before COVID fucked everything up? It was supposed to be like after the other two, right? It was supposed to be after Doctor Strange, right? Because Doctor Strange was going to be last year originally, right?
I think the 3 shows were always meant to come out before Doctor Strange because Michael Waldron got the Doctor Strange job based on his work on Loki.
Gotcha. Okay, so now this makes a lot more sense then. All right, so yeah. So fuck, yeah, I guess so. And someone said it too. They're like, the show came out on Wednesday, June 16th, 6/16, Earth 6/16.
Earth 6/16, yeah.
There you go. So that, and like, would Kevin Feige honestly change Loki to a Wednesday so he could do June 16th. Oh yeah, he's the fucking guy in the hat. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He's that fucking good. I love.
If you want to hear more about Kevin Feige, by the way, you got to watch our interview with Walter.
Yeah.
He was talking about working with Feige and stuff. Like that's 1 degree of separation from the man in the hat. That's big stuff.
Do you think if we sent him a Kevin Feige shirt, would he think it was weird? Because it's like that's someone you know. Like imagine I just had a Robbie Fox shirt.
I would wear a shirt that said Clem on it.
There we go. So maybe it wouldn't be so weird. I don't want to get cease and desist. He wears that on a Disney lot. Like they're just like beep.
I know
like,
Feige's like, what's that? But I mean, that shirt's already gone. You can't buy that one anymore. So if you got that, that's now a rare collectible.
It's
that's the thing. If our shirts get C indeed, the C stands for collectible now.
I also loved all the different locations they had. Ego, Vormir, Titan. I think it was Portugal in 1492 when Columbus sailed the ocean blue. So there was a lot of like deep Easter eggs, and I'm sure we'll get stuff along the way. This show was made for the
Jack told me in New York, around the date where New York was, someone tried to resurrect the Nazi Party in New York in like 1940s or 19. Yeah, I think it was like 1942. The date was on screen. Someone tried to do something with the Nazi Party, and I was like, oh, maybe that could be a connection to Red Skull or Hydra in some way. Who knows? I feel like all of those dates could be something and they could be nothing.
I hope one of those dates is in New York and it's the date that Ghostbusters was supposed to occur. Because I feel like that was like the closest I've ever seen to the real life apocalypse happening.
Do you want to get into the sus list?
Let's get into the sus list.
Let's get right into it.
Okay.
Hopefully my guy Cap is off it. We didn't see any fucking Peggy Carters in the background this time. Hopefully I'm off it.
Nope. Okay, not listed. First off, Captain America, not on it yet. This episode, not on it. Also, not on the list. Casey. I felt bad about, we had a lot of Casey slander, and it sounds like he's a great guy, so he's off it. Number 3, and this person could always be number 1. We know that, but I always got to have Loki on the sus list, and it's all Lokis that are entailed. It's fucking Lady Loki, Hulky Loki, which was like that one guy. They're always going to be on there. Number 2, it's only because I don't know. I just feel like there's just something about this actress. B-15, I just feel like this other agent, with she's always butting heads with Mobius. I feel like there is something a little off about her. But all these pale comparisons.
I kind of agree, especially because she's butting heads with Mobius all the time. Mobius comes off like that Ted Lasso, like that always so well-intentioned. I think we said last week, even if the TVA winds up being bad by the end of the show, I don't think Mobius is. I think Mobius genuinely in his heart is trying to do the right thing. So the fact that she keeps butting heads with him makes me think maybe there's something more to her.
Good soldiers follow orders kind of a thing. I feel like that's her like motto that she's saying, which anyone who's watching the Bad Batch knows what we're
Clem making fucking Clone Wars references. This is
watch out now. Number 1 on the sus list. I mean, I couldn't even make the sus list because it was like it's there's no list without this is the list. Renslayer. Renslayer is so fucking sus from the fuck that snow globe. I just can't get over that snow globe. And she like the way she kind of like dismisses it, and obviously the Kang ties and all this kind of stuff. I just feel like Renslayer is going to, and it ends. The episode ends with her like going into it and having like that fucking baton in her hand. So I feel like we're gonna hopefully get a little bit of a peek of what her end game is, or just her background, or just kind of. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's just a lot of susness going around with her right now.
I'm with the sus list. 2 weeks in a row. I like the sus list.
Oh, so 2 weeks in a row. So when I threw Cap on there, you agreed too, I guess.
Well, I said that I liked being in good company with Cap. Like at least we were together. You throw us in prison. It's like that's why me and Cap get along because we're such good friends. He sticks up for Bucky. I stick up for him. Ride or die.
Michael Waldron, he kind of was, feeling my side of the story there.
He also said Cap's a great friend. He was kind of on both sides.
Anytime you can hide your friend from assassinating heroes, that is a good friend. Like if you did that for me, I'd say you're a good friend. 100%.
He gave like the Marvel version of like a politician answer to us.
That was
like
very
a Democrat
good.
And a Republican, like asking like a neutral, like who do you think is better? He's like, well, I think there's good people on both sides. All right.
If you think having politic fights at like your Thanksgiving or whatever the fuck where people, online people do politic fights all the time. Think that's bad. 2 nerds dug in on a stance. That is much worse than any kind of politics fight you could ever have.
Let's get into listener questions. The first one comes from Tampa Bay 12, and this is the most important one. This is the one that I've been seeing I shouldn't say all week because it's been a day since the episode came out, but it's the one that everyone's talking about. He says, I don't think that's a Loki variant. Loki calls her Loki, and she says, ugh, don't call me that. And then Loki says, I would never treat me like this. I don't think those are throwaway lines. I think you're on track there because in the Latin credits of the show, she is listed as Sylvie. This is one of those things that you kind of wish didn't get out because it probably wasn't meant to get out. It's not like an Easter egg that fans really clicked onto and were like, "Oh, that has to be her." But Sylvie could be another Marvel character named Enchantress. Enchantress was named Sylvie in the comics prior. She has blonde hair. She uses green magic, a lot of the same magic that Loki uses, and has Loki ties. She was gifted her powers, I believe, by Loki. She was just a normal human in New Asgard when they rebuilt that. And I think in the comics it was in Alabama or it was in one of those
Oklahoma.
Or Oklahoma. Yeah, it was in America. So I think it could be Enchantress, especially her saying this is not about you. That could be another one of those lines. And maybe she's trying to set Loki up. Maybe the variant energy is just detecting Loki because he gave her magic powers. But I also think it all goes back to the conversation they had about the illusion casting and that stuff because her powers are different than Loki's.
Yeah, I saw that as well. And I think I don't know if it was the Latin, but I had seen Sylvie thrown around, and I do feel like sometimes they do borrow multiple characters that they kind of combine, right? So I think that could be the case as well. I don't know if I want it to be another Loki or if I want it to be this Enchantress kind of person. Because I kind of like the idea of multiple Lokis. Like the gender was fluid for Loki, right? When you saw.
Well, I don't think it disqualifies that. I still think because we saw all of the variant Lokis in the holograph form that we're dealing with variant Lokis regardless. And I think maybe even what if the Enchantress is working for a variant Loki? We have a question about that from, or not really a question, more a theory about that from Stephen Quigua. I hope I said his name right. He said Loki theory. I think Lady Loki is a good guy, and it's going to be evil old man Loki, played by Richard Grant, behind the TVA, running it in the shadows, all powerful, like he always wanted to be. In the end, Loki will have to choose between the good or bad Loki. So maybe it's just Enchantress being manipulated by evil old man Loki.
Okay.
A bit of an Emperor Darth Vader thing.
Yeah, I can get down. That was actually one of my questions. Do you think we get any more Lokis? Because I think you had those other ones where you saw the different, the Hulk Loki, the Tour de France one, and all that.
I
kind
hope
of
so.
stuff.
That's so much fun. Even just for the Funko Pops and the action figures of like, I want a Tour de France Loki Funko Pop now.
I do feel like we're going to get more Loki. So I sign me up for whatever whatever results in more Lokis and craziness in this world. And I feel like the way she waved goodbye to him, she knew he was coming through that door. It's fucking Loki. Of course he's going to jump through that, right? He took
She probably kept it open. She was probably holding the door on the other side.
Yeah, exactly. Come on in, big fella. Don't run. Don't run. Do you ever do that? That's like the old joke. It's like people do like the half run, but they're still walking.
Yeah.
You say, hey, I don't know. It's one of those things I just love. I just love holding the door for someone. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do.
I did it yesterday for Liam. Shout out Liam, pardon my take producer. And I did it way too early. But I had a lucky thing where I saw him and I was holding the door for someone else, and then I just kept holding the door, and I was like, "Oh, this is way too far. I don't want to make him run." So I pressed the friggin' there's the little handicap sign in the bottom, and I held the door open. I just kept walking. It was nice.
That's still a good move. Still a solid. You get the karma points, and you get to keep going. Everyone gets to go about their day.
We've got another theory from Mike Sullivan. He says, "What if Mobius turns out to be a Loki variant himself?" Who is helping our Loki, so it's eventually all Lokis running the TVA, and it adds some heartbreak to Loki's story, because by the end, it'll be himself is his only friend in this other timeline.
I kind of like the idea of every single person in the TVA being Loki. Now I want everyone to be Loki.
Of the Bobby Moynihan Loki, right?
Yes. Oh, shit.
No confirmation on that yet. Yet.
Sign me up for more Lokis, the better. And it's just been overrun with Lokis, because Loki is going to fuck something up and it's going to go completely wrong. And I could see that where like everyone ends up becoming a Loki. So I dig that one.
Question from Chuck, Colorado. He says, "I'm curious how all of the other variants were created, and also if the Avengers were supposed to go back in time, then they were supposed to create a Loki variant, right? All of this seems like it was supposed to happen, and the Timekeepers are just warping the minds of the TVA. I think that's an interesting theory because it's something that we brought up right off the bat last week. That's what we said. We were like, if the Avengers were supposed to go back in time, everything went right in that, right? In considering that, Endgame went right in the end. So Loki had to escape, so they had to go back to 1970. It's a whole that's the brain thing.
This is when my brain starts breaking again. And
Yeah.
I just put it back together. It's like I put the last piece in, and then someone knocks it off the table, and it splatters everywhere. And I'm trying to. I'm like, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, so what the fuck are we talking about here? Like everything went as it was supposed to go. And again, I'm sure smarter people can try to explain it to us. But that's what we should.
That's where Loki's frustration came from in the first episode, though, where he was like, why was it okay for them and not for me?
We need Michael Waldron on just so we can ask him these questions. And it's going to be the same questions every time. It's like, so explain to me how this time thing works and how it's all right and not all right, because my brain, it's like the 4-gallon jug from Die Hard. I can figure it out every single time, and as soon as I figure out, I forget it. It's the same thing with the time rules of Loki and how everything works and all that kind of stuff.
Our final theory is from Todd Dowry, and I love this one. He said, "Hey Robbie, I got a Loki question for you. Do you think the timekeepers might have gone radio silent? It seems like the TVA heads are operating on what they think the timekeepers would want versus what they're actually being dictated to do directly. Is it possible the TVA is going to end up being the bad guys in this without them even realizing it? Maybe Variant Loki is trying to expose the fact that the timekeepers actually aren't active anymore. I kind of like that. What if we find out that, yes, the timekeepers are real, but they're being fucking held captive by Gore the God Butcher and Kang? Like Kang is actually not one of the timekeepers, but he's holding them hostage. Or he is one of the timekeepers. He turned on the other two, and now he's operating rogue. Something like that, I could get down with.
Yeah, it's like finding out, like, what if God is dead? And you're like, oh, shit, if God's dead, what does that mean? The timekeepers at this point, okay, let me ask you, 1 to 5, sus meter for the timekeepers. 1 being not sus at all, 5 being sus as fuck. What do you list them as?
4.
Yeah, it's like a solid 4 for me too. I don't trust the timekeepers at all. I wouldn't let the timekeepers forget about not watching my kids. I wouldn't even like invite them over for dinner. Like that's I don't trust them one bit. I don't. And if I did, I'd have my like wallet in my pocket so I know they couldn't take my wallet on my card because like they're sus as fuck. I don't like the time. I do not like the timekeepers. Now, if it's like, who do you trust more right now? The timekeepers or Loki?
Loki.
I know, me too. That's
Loki
fucked.
more.
How fucked up is that? I trust Loki, the god of mischief, more than the timekeepers who are keeping this timeline together. Who, like, Miss Minute is a lovely person that explains the entire
Miss Minute. Nothing against her.
Love Miss Minute.
Also, what if she is connected? Because she said that he was like, "Are you like a human? Or are you real? Or are you recording?" She's like, kind of both. What if either that, or what if later on in the season she like saves the day somehow? She has an R2D2 BB-8-esque moment where she gets to like plug into something and she gets to be a physical thing that saves the day.
Sold. I mean,
I think there's more to Miss Minutes.
I hope so. I'm all on Miss Minute. Give me more Miss Minute. At the same point, she is also a product of the timekeepers, and now. All right, good thing. I'm locking the sus list because Miss Minute would have crept on to the sus list, but I don't want to do that to her. I don't want to ruin our friendship like that. But I'm starting to get a little worried about Miss Minute.
Just keep an eye on Miss Minute. Because she could be their all-knowing, like, watcher, their eye on the ground. Who knows? I mean, it seems like they have a lot of eyes on the ground, but there's something more to her. She's
like in the top 25 for college basketball. She's also receiving votes now on the time list. She's the sus list. She's not on the sus list, but our eyes are on her. You're not tricking us, Miss Minute. You're fucking adorable, and we love you. But you're also. This seems really mean to say to her because she's really a nice person. I really like Miss Minute.
We're watching you. We're watching you. All right, this has been another great episode. Next week we'll be back. If you've made it to the end of the episode, tweet us a picture of bleached eyebrows Thor from Thor 1. Make that the thing. Just tweet us bleached eyebrows Thor, or I don't know, some stupid Marvel meme. See a Marvel meme, be like, I made it to the end, and then tweet us because we like hearing that. And make sure to check out all of our sponsors, 3Chi, Barebottom Clothing, and Felix Gray. Thank you for sponsoring the show. We will talk to you guys next week.